Vicious bikers taunt a woman alone, her shocking move silences them instantly. The roar of motorcycles echoed through the quiet streets of Oakville, shattering the evening calm. The Black Reapers had arrived, their presence an ominous shadow over the small town. Emma Carter walked briskly, her footsteps echoing on the pavement as she made her way home from her late shift at the diner. She knew the risks of walking alone at night, but in a town this size, it was a risk many had to take. As she turned the corner, the rumble of engines grew louder, and the flickering streetlights cast eerie shadows across the road. Emma's heart raced as she saw them, a dozen bikers, their leather jackets emblazoned with the infamous Black Reapers logo. They revved their engines, their laughter cruel and taunting. The bikers circled her like wolves, their eyes glinting with malice. Well, what do we have here?" the leader sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "A pretty little thing all alone in the dark." Emma stood her ground, her chin raised in defiance. She knew these men, had seen their cruelty firsthand. They were the scourge of Oakville, a plague that had infected the town for far too long. The bikers closed in, their taunts growing louder, more vicious. They reached for her, their fingers grazing her skin, their breath hot on her face. But Emma remained still, her eyes locked on the leader's face. "You don't want to do this," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound that set Emma's teeth on edge. "And who's going to stop us? You?" Emma smiled then, a small, secretive smile that seemed to unnerve the bikers. "Yes," she said simply. "Me." In a small, unassuming house on the outskirts of Oakville, a man sat in his living room, his eyes fixed on the flickering television screen. The news anchor's voice filled the room, describing yet another incident involving the Black Reapers. The man sighed, his weathered face etched with lines of worry and regret. This man was James Carter, a legend in his own right. Once a renowned fighter, he had traded in his gloves for a quiet life in Oakville. But the peace he sought had been shattered by the arrival of the Black Reapers, a vicious gang that had taken over the town, spreading fear and chaos wherever they went. James had tried to stay out of it, to keep his head down and his family safe. But he knew that his daughter Emma, with her fiery spirit and unshakable sense of justice, would never stand idly by while the town suffered. He had trained her himself, taught her everything he knew about fighting, about standing up for what was right. And now, as he watched the news, he knew that the time had come for Emma to put those skills to the test. James rose from his chair, his movements slow and deliberate. He made his way to the back of the house, to the small room that served as his private sanctuary. There, on the wall, hung a faded photograph of a young man in boxing gloves, his face split in a triumphant grin. James looked at the photograph for a long moment, his eyes misting with memories. Then, with a sigh, he reached for the phone, his fingers dialing a number he had hoped he would never need to call again. "It's James," he said when the call connected. "It's time. The Black Reapers have gone too far. We need to do something." The bikers' laughter died on their lips as Emma moved, her body a blur of motion. She struck the leader first, her fist connecting with his jaw with a sickening crunch. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock and pain. The other bikers hesitated, uncertain how to react. They had never seen anyone stand up to them like this, let alone a woman. But Emma gave them no time to regroup. She spun, her foot lashing out in a vicious kick that sent another biker flying. The fight was over almost before it began. The bikers lay sprawled on the ground, groaning in pain, their faces a mask of disbelief. Emma stood over them, her chest heaving, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. "You will leave this town," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "You will never come back. And if you ever lay a hand on anyone here again, I will find you, and I will make you pay." The bikers stared at her, their eyes wide with fear. They had never seen anything like this before, a woman who could fight like a demon, who had no fear of them or their power. Slowly, painfully, they staggered to their feet, their eyes never leaving Emma's face. They mounted their bikes and rode off into the night, the sound of their engines fading into the distance. Emma watched them go, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that this was only the beginning, that the Black Reapers would not give up so easily. But she also knew that she had taken the first step, had shown the town that they did not have to live in fear. She turned and walked home, her head held high, her spirit unbroken. The battle had begun, and she would not rest until Oakville was free once more. The news of Emma's confrontation with the Black Reapers spread like wildfire through Oakville. People whispered in the streets, their voices tinged with awe and disbelief. They had heard the stories of James Carter's legendary fighting skills, but they had never imagined that his daughter would inherit his talents. Emma tried to ignore the stares and whispers, focusing instead on her work at the diner. But she could feel the eyes of the town upon her, could sense the growing sense of hope and excitement that her actions had sparked. In his home on the outskirts of town, James Carter watched the news reports with a mixture of pride and concern. He had always known that Emma was special, that she had the heart of a warrior. But he also knew the dangers that came with standing up to men like the Black Reapers. He thought back to his own days in the ring, to the battles he had fought and the scars he had earned. He had walked away from that life, had vowed never to return. But now, seeing his daughter take up the fight, he knew that he could not stand idly by. James picked up the phone and dialed a familiar number. "It's time," he said when the call connected. "The Black Reapers have gone too far. We need to do something." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, then a sigh of resignation. "I'll be there," the voice said. "It's time we put an end to this once and for all." The Black Reapers were not used to being challenged. For years, they had ruled Oakville with an iron fist, using fear and intimidation to keep the town under their control. But Emma's defiance had shaken them, had shown them that their power was not absolute. They gathered in their clubhouse on the outskirts of town, their faces grim and determined. They had underestimated Emma, had thought her just another victim to be crushed beneath their boots. But now, they knew better. "She's just one woman," the leader snarled, his jaw still aching from Emma's punch. "We can take her." But the others were not so sure. They had seen the fire in Emma's eyes, had felt the power of her blows. They knew that she was not just another victim, but a force to be reckoned with. "We need to be smart about this," one of the bikers said, his voice low and cautious. "If we go after her directly, we risk turning the whole town against us." The leader scowled, his eyes narrowing in thought. He knew that the biker was right, that they needed to be careful. But he also knew that they could not let Emma's defiance go unanswered. "We'll wait," he said finally. "We'll watch her, learn her weaknesses. And when the time is right, we'll strike." The bikers nodded, their faces grim with determination. They knew that the battle had only just begun, that Emma would not go down easily. But they also knew that they had the power of the gang behind them, that they would stop at nothing to maintain their grip on Oakville. As they rode out into the night, their engines roaring like angry beasts, they knew that the next move was theirs. And they would not rest until Emma Carter was brought to heel, and Oakville was theirs once more. Emma knew that the Black Reapers would not give up easily. She had seen the hatred in their eyes, the determination to crush anyone who dared to stand against them. But she also knew that she could not back down, that the fate of Oakville rested on her shoulders. She began to train harder than ever, pushing herself to the limits of her endurance. She sought out her father's old allies, the men and women who had fought beside him in the ring and on the streets. They came to her aid, sharing their knowledge and their skills, helping her to hone her abilities to a razor's edge. As the days turned into weeks, Emma could feel the town changing around her. The people of Oakville had always been resilient, had always found a way to survive no matter the odds. But now, with Emma as their champion, they began to find a new sense of unity, a new sense of purpose. They rallied around her, offering their support and their encouragement. They brought her food and water, tended to her injuries when she pushed herself too hard. And slowly but surely, they began to push back against the Black Reapers, refusing to be cowed by their threats and their violence. In the heart of Oakville, a small community garden began to take shape. It was a simple thing, just a patch of dirt and a few seeds. But to the people of the town, it was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, new life could still take root. Emma watched the garden grow, watched as the people of Oakville came together to tend to it. And as she watched, she knew that the town was changing, that the seeds of resistance had been planted, and that they would not be easily uprooted. The Black Reapers were growing increasingly frustrated with Emma's defiance. Every move they made, every threat they issued, seemed only to strengthen the town's resolve. They knew that they needed to do something drastic, something that would shatter Oakville's newfound sense of unity. They began to target the town's most vulnerable members, the elderly and the infirm, the children and the poor. They vandalized homes and businesses, stole food and supplies, did everything in their power to make life miserable for the people of Oakville. But even in the face of this new onslaught, the town refused to break. They banded together, sharing what little they had, protecting one another from the gang's cruelty. And at the center of it all was Emma, a beacon of hope and strength in the darkness. She organized patrols to keep the streets safe, set up a network of safe houses for those who had nowhere else to go. She worked tirelessly, rarely stopping to rest or eat, driven by a fierce determination to see her town free from the grip of the Black Reapers. And slowly but surely, her efforts began to pay off. The gang's hold on Oakville began to weaken, their power and influence waning with each passing day. The people of the town began to see a glimmer of hope, a chance for a better future. But Emma knew that the fight was far from over. The Black Reapers were wounded, but they were not yet beaten. And she knew that they would stop at nothing to regain their control over Oakville, to crush the town's spirit once and for all. As she stood in the center of the community garden, watching the plants sway gently in the breeze, Emma knew that the final battle was coming. And she knew that she would need every ounce of strength and courage she possessed to see it through to the end. As the tension in Oakville continued to mount, Emma knew that she needed to find a way to bring the town together, to show them that they were stronger united than they ever could be alone. And so, with the help of her father's old allies, she began to plan a festival, a celebration of Oakville's resilience and spirit. They worked tirelessly, pooling their resources and their skills to make the festival a reality. They hung banners and streamers, set up booths and stages, filled the streets with music and laughter. And as the people of Oakville began to gather, drawn by the promise of food and fun and fellowship, Emma could feel the town's spirits lifting, could sense the hope and joy that had been missing for so long. But even as the festival began to take shape, the Black Reapers were plotting their revenge. They had been watching Emma, studying her every move, looking for any weakness they could exploit. And now, with the town distracted by the festivities, they saw their chance to strike. They rode into the heart of Oakville like a storm, their engines roaring, their weapons gleaming in the sun. They tore through the festival like a pack of wild dogs, smashing booths and overturning tables, sending people screaming and running for cover. Emma was in the thick of it all, fighting back with every ounce of strength she had. She lashed out with fists and feet, dodging blows and returning them with interest. But even as she fought, she could feel the tide turning against her, could sense the gang's numbers and brutality overwhelming the town's defenses. And then, just when all seemed lost, a figure emerged from the chaos, a man with graying hair and a weathered face. It was James Carter, Emma's father, returned to Oakville to stand beside his daughter in her hour of need. Together, they rallied the town, leading them in a charge against the Black Reapers. And as the battle raged on, Emma could feel the town's spirit rising, could sense the power of unity and hope that had sustained them through so much. In the end, the Black Reapers were driven back, their power broken, their hold on Oakville shattered forever. And as the dust settled and the wounds began to heal, Emma knew that the town had been transformed, that they had found a strength and a resilience that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. In the aftermath of the battle, Oakville slowly began to rebuild. The festival had been a turning point, a moment when the town had come together in the face of adversity and emerged stronger than ever before. And now, as the people of Oakville worked to repair the damage and heal the wounds, Emma knew that they had a chance to build something better, something that would last. She worked tirelessly, organizing cleanup crews and rebuilding efforts, making sure that everyone had a role to play in the town's recovery. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Oakville began to thrive once more. The community garden became a symbol of the town's resilience, a place where people could come together to plant and tend and harvest, to share in the bounty of the earth. The festival became an annual event, a celebration of Oakville's spirit and a reminder of the power of unity and hope. But even as the town prospered, Emma knew that the fight was not over. The Black Reapers had been beaten, but they were not gone forever. And she knew that there would always be those who sought to prey on the weak and the vulnerable, who saw power as something to be taken rather than earned. And so, she continued to train, to hone her skills and her mind, to be ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She worked with her father and his allies to build a network of support and protection, to ensure that Oakville would never again fall victim to the likes of the Black Reapers. And through it all, Emma never forgot the lessons she had learned, the power of courage and compassion, of unity and hope. She knew that these were the things that had sustained her through the darkest of times, and she knew that they would continue to guide her and her town as they moved forward into the future. As the years passed, Emma watched Oakville continue to grow and change. The town had been transformed by the battle against the Black Reapers, had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. And now, as new challenges and opportunities presented themselves, Emma knew that they would need to draw on that strength and unity once again. One of the biggest challenges facing Oakville was the changing economy. The town had always relied on small businesses and local industries, but now, with the rise of globalization and the shift towards online commerce, many of those businesses were struggling to stay afloat. Emma knew that they needed to find a way to adapt, to embrace the changing times while still staying true to the town's values and traditions. And so, she began to work with local leaders and business owners to develop a plan for the future. They launched a campaign to promote Oakville's unique character and charm, to draw in tourists and customers from far and wide. They invested in new technologies and infrastructure, working to create a business environment that was both innovative and sustainable. And through it all, Emma never lost sight of the importance of community. She organized events and initiatives that brought people together, that celebrated Oakville's diversity and strengthened the bonds between its residents. She knew that the town's greatest strength lay in its people, in their courage and compassion, their willingness to stand together in the face of adversity. And she knew that here is the continuation of the story. As Oakville continued to thrive and grow, Emma knew that the time had come to confront the final remnants of the Black Reapers. The gang had been beaten and broken, but a few die-hard members still clung to their old ways, still dreamed of reclaiming their lost power. Emma had been watching them closely, had seen the signs of their growing desperation and anger. She knew that they were planning something, that they would stop at nothing to get their revenge on the town that had defeated them. And so, with a heavy heart, Emma began to prepare for the final battle. She gathered her allies and her resources, made plans and contingencies, readied herself for the fight to come. She reached out to the last few members of the gang, offering them a chance at redemption, a way out of the cycle of violence and hatred. Some accepted her offer, laying down their weapons and their anger, choosing to start anew. But others, the most hardened and bitter of the bunch, refused to listen, refused to let go of their poisonous dreams. And so, on a cold and moonless night, the final battle began. The remaining Black Reapers attacked the town with a ferocity born of desperation, lashing out with all the cruelty and savagery they could muster. But Oakville was ready for them. The town's defenders met the gang head-on, matching their brutality with courage and determination. And at the forefront of it all was Emma, fighting with a skill and a fury that left her enemies reeling. In the end, the Black Reapers were defeated once and for all, their power broken forever. Those who had refused Emma's offer of redemption were brought to justice, made to face the consequences of their actions. And as the dust settled and the wounds began to heal, Emma knew that Oakville had won more than just a battle. They had won a future, a chance at a better tomorrow. And she knew that, whatever challenges lay ahead, the town would face them together, united by the bonds of hope and resilience that had seen them through so much. In the wake of the final battle, Emma found herself reflecting on all that had happened, on the long and difficult road that had led her and her town to this moment. She thought of her father, of the strength and wisdom he had given her, the lessons he had taught her about courage and compassion. She thought of the people of Oakville, of the way they had come together in the face of adversity, the way they had refused to be broken by the cruelty of the Black Reapers. And she knew that, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them with the same spirit of unity and resilience that had seen them through so much. As the town began to rebuild once more, Emma knew that there was still much work to be done. There were wounds to be healed, both physical and emotional, and there were bridges to be built between those who had once been enemies. But she also knew that Oakville was up to the task. She saw it in the way people came together to help one another, in the way they worked tirelessly to rebuild what had been lost. And she saw it in the way they refused to let the past define them, in the way they looked to the future with hope and determination. In the heart of Oakville, the community garden continued to thrive, a symbol of the town's enduring spirit. And as Emma walked among the plants and the flowers, she knew that this was where the true strength of Oakville lay, not in the might of its defenders or the power of its leaders, but in the simple, everyday acts of kindness and compassion that bound its people together. And so, as the sun rose on a new day in Oakville, Emma knew that the town had been transformed, not just by the battles it had fought, but by the love and the hope that had sustained it through the darkest of times. And she knew that, whatever the future might hold, Oakville would always be a place of strength and resilience, a beacon of light in a world that so often seemed filled with darkness. As the years passed, Emma watched Oakville continue to grow and change, shaped by the love and the resilience of its people. She saw new businesses and new opportunities arise, saw the town's children grow into strong and compassionate adults, ready to take on the challenges of the world. And through it all, she remained a constant presence, a guiding light for those who looked to her for strength and wisdom. She taught the town's young people the ways of courage and compassion, showed them how to stand up for what was right, even in the face of adversity. She worked tirelessly to build bridges between the different communities that made up Oakville, to ensure that everyone had a voice and a place in the town's future. And she did it all with the same quiet strength and determination that had seen her through the darkest of times. As the years turned into decades, Emma began to feel the weight of time upon her, the aches and pains of a life lived to the fullest. But even as her body grew older, her spirit remained as strong and vibrant as ever, a testament to the power of hope and resilience. And then, on a warm summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to shine, Emma passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by the love and the gratitude of the town she had fought so hard to protect. In the days and weeks that followed, Oakville mourned the loss of its greatest champion, the woman who had taught them the true meaning of strength and compassion. They came together to honor her memory, to share stories of the battles she had fought and the lives she had touched. And as they did so, they knew that Emma's legacy would live on, not just in the stories they told, but in the way they lived their lives, in the love and the hope that they carried with them every day. They knew that, as long as they held fast to the lessons she had taught them, as long as they stood together in the face of adversity, Oakville would always be a place of strength and resilience, a beacon of light in a world that so often seemed filled with darkness. Years turned into decades, and decades into generations, but the spirit of Emma Carter never faded from the heart of Oakville. Her memory lived on in the stories passed down from parent to child, in the lessons of courage and compassion that were woven into the very fabric of the town. And as Oakville continued to grow and change, as new challenges and opportunities arose, its people drew strength from the example set by their greatest champion. They faced each trial with the same quiet determination that had seen Emma through the darkest of times, the same unwavering commitment to hope and resilience. In the heart of the town, the community garden that had once been a symbol of Oakville's rebirth became a place of pilgrimage, a sacred space where people came to remember the sacrifices of the past and to dream of the possibilities of the future. They tended to the plants and the flowers with the same love and care that Emma had shown for her town, knowing that each seed planted was a promise of hope for the generations to come. And as the years passed, Oakville became known far and wide as a place of strength and compassion, a shining example of what was possible when people came together in the face of adversity. Its story was told in books and songs and films, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the greatest of challenges. And through it all, the spirit of Emma Carter lived on, a guiding light for all those who followed in her footsteps. Her courage and her compassion, her unwavering commitment to hope and resilience, became the very essence of Oakville, the heartbeat of a town that had learned to stand tall in the face of any challenge. And so, as the sun rose on a new day in Oakville, as the people of the town went about their lives with love and purpose, they knew that they were part of something greater than themselves, a legacy of strength and compassion that would endure for generations to come. And they knew that, as long as they held fast to the lessons of the past, As long as they stood together in the face of whatever challenges lay ahead, Oakville would always be a beacon of hope and resilience, a shining light in a world that so often seemed filled with darkness.